It's 6:45 a.m. Your alarm goes off. Before your feet even hit the floor, your brain is already running through everything that could go wrong today. The traffic. The inbox. The meeting you're dreading. Almost 2,000 years ago, a man woke up feeling exactly the same way, and he happened to be one of the most powerful people on earth. His name was Marcus Aurelius. He was the emperor of Rome. And most mornings, he didn't want to get out of bed either. Welcome to the Everyday Philosopher, the show where we take the biggest ideas in human history and boil them down to something you can actually use before your coffee gets cold. No togas. No jargon. No pretending philosophy is only for people with tenure. Today, Stoicism and what a Roman emperor's private journal can teach you about surviving Monday. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome from 161 to 180 AD. War on multiple fronts. A plague that killed millions. A son who would go on to be a genuinely terrible successor. By any measure, a brutal stretch to be in charge of anything, let alone an empire. And yet, every night, he sat down and wrote to himself. Not for an audience. Not for publication. Just notes, reminders, arguments he was having with his own mind about how to be a decent, steady person in an indecent, unsteady world. Those private notes got compiled after his death into a book we now call Meditations. It's one of the strangest bestsellers in history, a to-do list for the soul, written by a man who never intended anyone else to read it. Here's the idea at the center of it all, and it's simpler than people make it sound. You don't control what happens. You only control how you respond to it. That's it. That's the engine room of Stoicism. Marcus didn't choose the plague. He didn't choose the wars. He didn't choose to inherit an empire that was already stretched thin. But he believed, and wrote to himself, over and over, like someone trying to convince a stubborn friend, that none of that mattered as much as his own reaction to it. There's a line from his journal that's become famous, something like, "You have power over your mind, not outside events, realize this, and you will find strength." Notice what he's not saying. He's not saying don't feel bad. He's not saying just be positive. He's saying, the event and your reaction are two separate things, and you've been treating them as one thing your whole life. So let's bring this back down to earth. Literally, to your bedroom, your alarm clock, your Monday. Marcus actually wrote about this exact feeling. Paraphrasing his journal, when you wake up reluctant, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being. Why am I dissatisfied if I'm going to do what I was made for? He's not telling himself to love his job. He's reframing the entire premise. The reluctance isn't a signal that something's wrong with the day. It's just friction, the normal cost of being a person with responsibilities. Expected, not exceptional. Here's the practical version, something you could actually use tomorrow. When you feel that Monday resistance, the inbox dread, the meeting anxiety, the I don't want to, try separating the event from your story about the event. The event, you have a 9 a.m. meeting. The story, this is going to be awful, I'm not prepared, everyone will notice. Stoicism doesn't ask you to pretend the meeting is fun. It asks you to notice that the story is something you're adding, and that you have more control over the story than you think. Marcus used a specific method for this. He'd ask himself, each morning, to preview the day honestly. Not optimistically, not pessimistically, honestly. Today I may meet people who are rude, ungrateful, dishonest. And then, none of this can harm me, because none of it is in my control. What's in my control is whether I stay decent anyway. That's not pessimism. It's armor. He's not hoping for a good day, he's making himself unbreakable to a bad one. If you take one thing from this episode, make it this. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, ask yourself one question, borrowed almost directly from Marcus's journal. What's actually in my control today, and what isn't? Write it down if you can, even just 2 columns on a sticky note. Traffic, not in your control. How you react to traffic, entirely in your control. The tone of an email you receive, not in your control. The tone of the email you send back, entirely in your control. It sounds almost too simple to matter. But Marcus wrote some version of this sentence to himself for years, as Emperor of Rome, in the middle of wars and plagues. If it was worth doing with those stakes, it's probably worth doing with yours. Here's tonight's question to sit with, the same kind of question Marcus was asking himself 18 centuries ago, by lamplight, after a day that was probably worse than yours. What happened today that you couldn't control, and how did you choose to respond anyway? You don't need an answer right now. Just carry the question with you. This has been the Everyday Philosopher. If this helped reframe even one Monday, consider subscribing. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, one idea at a time. Until next time.